Elena Cosenza, the Fairy of the Waters. Once upon a time, in a distant country, there lived a most beautiful girl named Elena Cosenza. The sun rays caressed her, the crystal clear water of the waterfall cooled her down in the warm summer days, and the flowers fondled her with their fragrance. It was rumored she would be the Fairy of the Waters, for she was always seen walking about the waterfall. An imposing castle was rising against the sky, right near the waterfall. It belonged to the Southern Emperor, and it guarded the whole kingdom with its tall dungeon towers, its battlements, and its solid buttresses. The Emperor and the Empress had a handsome son who was tall and slim and had beautiful hair as fair as the moonbeams and eyes as blue as the summer sky. His parents didn't trust him out of their sight. The Emperor's son used to cover the kingdom along and across, as he loved the forest and its trees, the river and its clear water, and all the living beings of the earth. On a hot summer day, the prince tied his horse near a tree and got into the water to bathe. While he was bathing in the cool water of the river, Elena Cosenza came out from between the reeds around. She stopped to watch him for a long time as he was swimming in the crystal clear water, because she was curious to find out who the lad was. After having bathing all day long, the prince lay down on the grass under the shadow of a big tree and, being tired, he fell asleep. Then Elena Cosenza drew near carefully, and seeing his handsome face, had her eyes riveted on him. After a while, the prince felt a light breath of wind, and when he opened his eyes, he saw before him the most delicate face he had ever seen. They started talking about everything, as if they had known each other ever since the world began. At length, they unwillingly said goodbye to each other, and the prince returned to his father's castle with a joyful heart. From that day on, he couldn't stop thinking of the beautiful girl he had met. Early in the morning of the next day, the prince left the castle eagerly to meet Helena Cosenza, who was also waiting for him near the waterfall. They confessed their love for each other and swore eternal faith, the girl giving him her ring as a vow. Everybody at the court was happy for the prince, who ordered wedding preparations at once. The days in the kingdom were passing quietly, no one suspecting what was about to happen. Hearing about the girl's incomparable beauty, the dragon of the dragons, a matchlessly ugly creature, came from his far-off realm to ravish the girl. Without suspecting a thing, one morning the prince hurried to meet the girl of his choice. To his surprise, the girl didn't welcome him as she used to. Vainly did he wait till sunset. The girl didn't show up. Only later did the prince find out from his mother, the empress, who had also heard it from her servants, that Helena Cosenza had been ravished by the fierce dragon and had been taken to his realm in the world beyond, where not a living soul had ever set foot on. When hearing this, the prince came up before his father, the emperor, and asked for the blessing, as he intended to go to the unknown realm where not even a bird had ever reached. As the road was long and hard, the emperor advised his son to get himself a walking stick made of iron and a pair of steel boots. When the walking stick got blunt, he would know he had reached the dragon's land. Early the following morning, the prince went to the ironsmith of the castle, whom he demanded the steel boots and the stick. And thus, prepared for the long and hard journey, he said goodbye to his parents and farewell to the courtiers, leaving them behind with a sorrow heart. Delivering himself in God's hands, the prince set out bravely on his way. Our prince walked on and on, day after day, until he came to forget their number. He went through thick woods, deep valleys, and insurmountable mountains, but nothing could stop him on his way. He sometimes stopped to rest at night and to warm before a wooden fire, but during the day he walked as if under a spell towards the realm where his sweetheart was kept prisoner. One night, judging by his blunt stick, he realized he had come close to the end of his journey. When the day broke, the prince saw near the place he had stayed overnight a precipice that opened to the center of the earth. He threw a rope and climbed it down fearlessly into the chasm beneath him. When he reached the end of the rope, he started walking through the dark tunnel he saw in front of him. At the end of the tunnel, the prince reached the other world. He saw a mill that was grinding hastily on the other side of a bridge between two heavy rocks. As he hadn't seen a human face for such a long time, he drew near the mill, hoping to find a soul to talk to. There he met an old miller who told him with bitterness in his voice that everything the poor man got with hard work was taken by the greedy and covetous dragon. As the old man was kind and talkative, he accepted the young man to help him load the sacks with flour. a woodpecker would fly to the mill and would take the sacks to the dragon's palace. The prince told the old man the reason he had come such a long way and asked for his help. As one could reach the dragon's palace only by flying, they thought of a trick. To hide the prince in a sack the bird would carry to the palace. So said, so done. The prince followed the old man's advice and, hidden in a sack, he waited for the bird to come. Sadly, the old man said farewell to his friend, wishing him luck. Carried by the bird, our prince arrived at the dragon's palace. There he made friends easily with the palace baker, who gladly took him as an apprentice. In the meantime, Ilana Cosenza was sad and lonely, longing for her handsome prince, not even dreaming he was so near. Our lad kept thinking and challenging how to get to Ilana Cosenza when suddenly an idea struck him. He took off his ring and put it in a loaf he was preparing to bake. The loaf got onto the girl's table, who sat thoughtful, unwilling to eat because she missed her beloved prince. But when she half-heartedly took a piece of bread, she was surprised to find inside it the ring she had given to her lover. Supposing he was somewhere close by, Ilana ordered to see the baker who had baked the bread. The prince and Ilana Cosenza rejoiced when seeing each other after such a long time. They told each other everything they had got through since they last met. Then they both thought of a plan to help them escape from the dragon's palace. The girl told him he had to go to the old hag to ask her for the winged horse. On his way to the old hag, the prince saw a fish writhing on land. Being kind-hearted, he hurried to throw it back into the water. He walked on, and he finally got to the old hag's house, where he directly asked for the winged horse. Sly as she was, the hag told him she would give him the horse if he ventured to guard it for 1 day and 1 night. But if the horse broke loose, the prince would go into the hag's service forever. The lad agreed, and as soon as the night fell, he set in guarding the stable door. But during the night, The hag cast a spell upon the horse and hid it among fish on the bottom of a pond. Taken by surprise in the morning, the prince set out to look for the horse. As he was walking thoughtfully, he reached the bank of the pond. The fish he had once saved sprang suddenly out of the water, and, returning the favor, he told the prince the horse was hidden on the bottom of the pond. The prince jumped into the water at once. There he found the winged horse, mounted on it, and they flew through the air to the dragon's palace. So our lad was flying on the winged horse to take Yelena Kosinzana, who was waiting for him. But the dragon of dragons, who was just coming back from hunting, got angry when he saw the flying horse and smelled human odor, and started running after them at full gallop. The prince hastily grabbed the girl onto the saddle, and they rose to the sky. The angry dragon followed them, jumping up to catch them. But the enchanted horse, with the prince and Yelena Kosinzana, dashed into the heavenly vault, while the wicked dragon fell into the deep precipice and ended in smoke. The prince and Yelena Kosinzana flew on the back of the enchanted horse, miles and miles away, to the other end of the world, until they reached their parts. They had a fairy tale-like wedding that became famous all over the world. And they lived happily ever after.